This is Dave Thomas III. I'm the author of my little book of truisms. I want to share something with y'all today in regards to two key elements out of a number of key elements that go into building and realizing your dreams. Those two elements I'm talking about are risk and work. And in this universe that we live in as humans, you are not going to be able to accomplish or achieve extraordinary things that will make up the legacy of your life without risk and the work. It's just not going to happen. Let's just get that out of the way up front. It's not going to happen. Our universe doesn't work that way. Our universe works in such a way whereas you want to get someplace extraordinary, you have to put in extraordinary effort, and you have to accept that along the way in that process of getting to where you want to go, you're going to be negotiating and confronted by risk. Some of it minimal risk, some of it extremely high risk, but it's all going to have a risk factor involved that's going to mean you are going to have to go through those things in order to get to where you want to go. I like to think of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Still to this day in the history of mankind, one of the most well-known achievements. Why? Because here it was, two guys basically took off just east of the Mississippi and headed west towards the West Coast. And at that time, in between Mississippi and the West Coast was a lot of this unknown frontier with all kinds of unknown elements and dangers. And yet these two guys and their expedition took off and went through these things. They had to deal with weather. They had to deal with every day. You had to make sure you ate. So you had to hunt. You had to do this. You had to trap. You had to deal with hostile Indian tribes. You had to deal with all kinds of things. You had to deal with the work and the dangers of blazing a path through a wilderness that was unforgiving and that could kill you at any given second. Yet, this is their legacy. One of the most well-known, well-regarded, and still talked about achievements in the history of man. If you bring that down to a smaller scale, let's say you want to open up a business. You want that business to be a complete success, right? Well, you know what? Principally speaking, you're going to have to go through the same thing that Lewis and Clark and everybody else has ever achieved anything that was greater than themselves had to go through. You're going to have to transcend the risk, and you're going to have to put in the work. There's no two ways about it. Wrap your minds around that. Wrap your minds around that and then trap those two elements in between, because those two elements are going to spell the difference between your failure, ultimate failure, not the little failures that you contend with along the way and that you find ways to either obliterate or get around, but whether it's going to determine whether or not you rise or you fall. It's that simple. How well you negotiate risk and how hard you work. I had a friend that started a dump truck company some years ago. All right, he started a dump truck company, went out and bought a truck, but he didn't realize just how treacherous and how cutthroat the dump truck industry really was until he got into it. He found out a lot of things about it. And there was a lot of risk involved, some of it very minimal, some of it very substantial. But in order for his company to become what it later did, he had to learn how to handle risk. And to do that primarily meant he had to be comfortable with the fact that no matter how far he went in this business, the risk factors were always going to be there, and there was no way around them. But yet he wrote himself the legacy that he has today by how he dealt with the risk and how much work he put in. Anytime that you want to achieve, think about achievements. Everybody looks at the achievements of others basically and they see the shine and the gloss and everything on it, but nobody knows the grit and the dirt and the blood and the sweat and the little bits of skin left behind on the road that led from where they started from to where they are today in their business. The shine and the beautiful veneer of their achievements belie all of that. It hides all of that because it's behind it. It's behind it. You don't see all of that. But I guarantee you that if you talk to the people who have accumulated those achievements, they will tell you, oh yeah, we had to get up old dark 30 in the morning. The birds were still sleeping when we got up, and we come home and don't get into bed long after the birds have gone to bed, because that's what it took for us to make it. Now, I'm not saying that you should be so much into trying to build your business, regardless of the risk or regardless of the work or the reward that you intend to harvest. You don't want to do all that at the expense of your obligations, your normal day-to-day obligations. If you have a family, if you have other obligations that you had to tend to that are not options, they're strictly obligatory, then you still have the challenge, see, of handling all of those obligations while you're still building your dreams. I've known some extraordinary stories about women, single moms, who raising children, multiple children in some cases, while working full-time, and in some cases even going to school and building their dreams. And they made it. You see, the deal is part of that risk factor is the risk that you're going to become overwhelmed while you're trying to figure out how to do all of these things and keep them in balance. The children, the normal day-to-day 9 to 5, going to school, everything, all the things that are not options in your life, but that are obligations. The risk is that you will become so overwhelmed that you might quit. You might want to quit, but that's not going to happen, because you know what? You're going to beat the risk. How? You're going to find ways to handle all this stuff, and you're going to be successful at it. And then ultimately, you're going to build your dreams, and that will be your crowning achievement for that particular plateau of your life until you move up to the next thing and the next thing. And you're never going to, no matter how high you go, no matter how hard you work, you're always going to have to deal with the risk, and there's always going to be a lot of labor involved. A labor of love, I hope, but labor nonetheless. That's going to spell the difference between you joining that fairly exclusive club of high achievers and then the other people over here, nothing against them, but who are living just day-to-day life, just day-to-day regular life. That's going to be the difference between you and them. Because over here, they play it safe. There's not a wide safety margin for people like you, though. For people like you, the safety margins narrow, of course, based on what it is that you're trying to do, but it's far narrower for you, respectively speaking, than it is for those over here who just want to take it easy, basically, and not, I don't want to put those people down, and I'm not, but who are just playing it safe, as opposed to the trailblazers, as opposed to the hellraisers, as opposed to the people who are going out there and making it happen from scratch. That's who you are. And for that reason, your safety margin tends to be far narrower than everybody else's, but your reward tends to be far wider, far bigger, and far more substantial. So just remember these two things we talked about. If you want success, have big success, do it. But just remember, you're never going to be able to get it done without risk, without work. All right? But here's the beautiful thing is, I know you can do it. I know that you can. Well, again, my name is Dave Thomas III. I'm the author of my little book of truisms. I just wanted to share this with you today. I hope that wherever you are enjoying life and you're living it large and having a great time. And I hope that your day is going well. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing you. I was going to say my name again, but I'm looking forward to seeing you again and bringing other videos to you on these types of subjects in terms of personal development, in terms of dream materialization. And the most important thing that I want to leave behind with you before I get off of this video is I want to tell you something. Always, no matter what, be your best you. Have a good one.